One of the questions I have received is why maize prices in South Africa are so high, particularly white maize. And that's a fair question, because if you look at white maize prices in South Africa today, December 20th, I think they closed at 6,800 Rand a ton. To get a perspective of how high that is relative to last year, that is about plus 50% higher compared to last year. Now, what's going on here? There are actually fundamental factors that are behind this increase in white maize price, and also to a certain extent yellow maize prices, although yellow maize prices have not increased in the same rate that we are seeing at white maize prices. There's a difference of about 1,000 Rand a ton when you compare white and yellow. But I think the first point to start off is that maize in general is segmented in two varieties in South Africa. We have yellow maize, which is mainly for animal feed and industrial use, and then white maize, which is for human consumption. And white maize in the world market is a scarce commodity. The only countries that produce a lot of white maize is South Africa and Mexico. So when there is a problem in South Africa, Mexico, and to a certain extent in Zambia, you get to see that in white maize prices. So now we are coming from a season that was very difficult. That's the 2023-24 production season. We were hit by the midsummer drought that negatively affected South Africa's maize production and across the Southern Africa region. South Africa's maize in general declined by 23%, while countries like Zimbabwe saw maize production declining by 60%. I think in Zambia it was almost 50%. So it's been a tough period. So that means that the maize supplies in the region are pretty much tight. And even Mexico, which is one of the major white maize producers, doesn't really have that much maize at this time around. So there is that dilemma where there are many people that demand or want to buy South African white maize, and maize in general is scarce at this period. So that is driving up prices as one of the fundamental factors that is there. South Africa is exporting a lot of maize, continues, and we anticipate that our maize production, our maize exports this year will actually be around about 2 million tons in the marketing year that ends in April 2025. The country has already exported about 1.4 million tons of maize, so there's 500,000 tons more that will be exported. So there are those dynamics. So this is all a long-winded way of saying there are tight maize supplies. There's a lot of countries that still demand maize, and this is one of the fundamental factors that is contributing to this increase in prices that you are seeing at the moment if you're looking at the South African maize prices. And of course, there is no crisis in South Africa. We do have sufficient supplies, but those supplies are at a fairly higher prices. In terms of inflation and in terms of what does all this mean for consumers, it does mean that at some point next year, you may see that grain-related food products will slightly increase from the levels that you are currently seeing, because for farm gate prices to pass on to the retail level in food products, that's usually a lag of about 3 to 4 months. So that's something that to look out to. But if you're wondering what's the fundamental reason behind what we are seeing, that's what's happening here. Perhaps I'll explain at some point, but do check out my Substack and also my blog, because I have written about this. My blog is wandelesihlobo.com. You'll find out and you can read more about the data and some details.